This is part 2 of question 2. We're going to factor by grouping. So you group together your first 2 terms and your last 2 terms. The thing that is alike, or the GCF that's in this first parenthesis, is an X. So I'm going to pull an X out. And what's left over when I pull an X out? If I have 2 X's and I take 1 out, I'm left with 1 X. And if I have negative 3x and I take 1x out, I'm left with negative 3. In the other parenthesis, if I did GCF, open parentheses, 6 comma negative 18, it would give me 6 in Desmos. Okay? I promise it does. So this is the plus sign that I'm going to use. I'm going to drop it down, plus 6, that's my GCF. So now when I divide it out, 6 divided by 6 cancels. I'm left with just x. Negative 18 divided by a positive 6 is a negative 3. Now my 2 parentheses are identical. So I'm going to write that down one time, x minus 3. And in my other parenthesis is my GCFs, which is x plus 6, just like that. All right, the last 2 examples. My GCF if I were to type GCF in GCF, open parenthesis, 1, negative 7, negative 30. 1, comma, negative 7, comma, negative 30. Close your parenthesis. It even shows you that it is a 1. So I'm going to write GCF equals 1. My A value is the number that sits in front of the x squared every time. My B value is negative 7, and my C value is negative 30. My x, it's always A times C. So 1 times negative 30 is negative 30, but they have to add together to give me negative 7. So my factor pairs of negative 30 are 1 times negative 30, 2 times negative 15, 3 times negative 10, and 5 times negative 6. That's my factor pairs. When I go to add them up, when I add them, this one gives me negative 29. This one gives me negative 13. This one gives me negative 7, and this one gives me negative 1. I needed negative 7, so it's 3 and negative 10. Now we're going to do the expanded version of the 3 terms. We're going to turn it into 4 terms. The first term is the first term from the problem, x squared. The last term is the last term in the problem, negative 30. Now, the middle 2 terms are the middle 2 terms coming from right here, 3x, a positive 3x, and a negative 10x. Again, if I put those 2 together, it would give me negative 7x, which is the original problem. Next, we're going to factor by grouping. The GCF in between both of these is 1, but they also have an x in common. So I'm going to pull out an x. If I have two x's and I pull out one x, I'm left with one x. If I have 3x and I pull out an x, my x's cancel and I'm left with a positive 3. For this one, if you type in your GCF, of -10, comma, -30, notice it tells me my GCF is 10. So be very careful though, because you need it to be a -10. Even though the calculator said a positive 10, you have to have a negative because that first sign was negative there. Okay, so -10. And then what's left over? -10 divided by -10 is 1. So I'm left with 1x. -30 divided by -10. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. 30 divided by 10 is 3. My parentheses are identical, so I'm going to write them down one time, x plus 3. And then my GCFs, or also known as my blue numbers here, is x minus 10 in the other parenthesis. And in front of that would be my big GCF from step 1, but I don't have to write that this time because it's just a 1. If it was any other number other than 1, I would need to write it down right there. All right, let's look at the last problem, and then you'll have time to work on your homework. We have GCF. I'm just going to tell you it's a 1. My A value is 1. My B value is -22, and my C value is 72. My X is 1 times 72, which is 72, and B for bottom, which is -22. My factors of a positive 72, but has a negative at the bottom. That means both numbers would need to be negative in order for this number to be negative. So -1 and -72, -2 and -36. 3 doesn't fit into 72 evenly. -4 times -18. -5 doesn't fit into 72 evenly. -6 times -12 does. And -8 times -9 does. And that's all my factor pairs of 72. So which one adds up to give me -22? So when I add this one, that gives me -73. When I add this one, 36, 37, 38. When I add this one, it gives me -22. This one gives me -18. This one gives me -17. So this is the one that I needed. -4 and -18. Now we're ready for the expanded set. My first term goes in my first blank, which was x squared. My last term goes in my last blank, which is a positive 72. And my two middle terms that I just found go in the middle to replace -22x. So -4x and -18x. So factor by grouping now. So I'm going to group the first two terms together and the last two terms together. Looking at the first two terms, a 1 and a -4, they only have a GCF of a 1. And then you have an x in common, so we have 1x. And then what's left over? 1 divided by 1 is 1. If I have two x's and I take 1 away, I got 1x left. -4 divided by 1 is -4, and my x's cancel. I know I have a negative here, so I know I need to pull down that negative. And when I type in 18, -18 and comma 72, it gives me 18 for my GCF. So my GCF is 18. -18. So when I divide that, -18 divided by -18 cancels. I'm left with just x. Positive 72 divided by -18 is -4. My parentheses are identical. So I'm going to write them down one time, x minus 4. And then in my other parenthesis is my GCF, x minus 18. I'm going to close that parenthesis. That finishes up the lesson for today. You have successfully now fully factored an algebraic expression in the form of x squared plus bx plus c. You have a pair assessment to do, and you have a paper that you must show all of your work on, and you won't get any credit unless you turn in that paper. I hope you have a great day.